What's up, RT?
Hey, Nick.
Welcome back to Tough Men of Faith.
Yeah, we're back with one of our favorite guests.
Daniel Earle.
Oh,
Yeah.
So you introduced me to this guy.
Yeah,
And now
did.
every time I say he's coming on, you're like, not again. What am I getting myself into?
Yeah. I've had a really busy week. I just kind of got down here, and I don't even know what we're talking about today, but I'm looking forward to
We're
it.
going to wing it.
So,
That's what we do best.
ooh, wing it.
Wing it.
You got to be careful, man.
Yeah, we do.
let's get some of the other stuff out of the way first.
Yeah. Got to thank our sponsor.
Thank the sponsor, Increase Jesus.
Yep.
We got the barn gathering coming up.
Got a barn gathering April 25th.
Do you have the date? Good. April 25th.
Yep.
So it's almost here. Get
It's a
signed
Friday.
up.
It's at 6 p.m.
Yeah.
We're hanging out around a campfire.
Yeah.
Fire, some kind of fire, discussing.
Mission for
mission
your life.
statements.
Yeah, it's just going to be a great time of hanging out.
Great. I agree.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it.
It sounds like it.
If it rains, we'll move into the barn.
Yeah.
It's the barn gathering.
Right.
Yeah.
Be less fire.
Less. Yeah. Still a fire.
Yeah.
All right. Anything else? So we
I
can
don't
jump in
think
this.
so, man.
What are we talking
Oh,
about?
dude.
What?
Increase Jesus. Don't forget increase Jesus.
We already talked about that.
Yeah, we.
Oh, you did?
Yeah, we mentioned.
Oh, I'm
it.
sorry.
Yeah.
Dude, you gave me a bunch of crap last time for getting pedicures.
Yeah.
I have had countless people reach out to me. They're like, I get pedicures too. I just
That
don't
listen to the
yeah,
podcast.
listen to the podcast. Guys, they're like, I get pedicures too. I just don't tell anybody. I was like, yeah, maybe that's where I'm going to be in the future. So, we'll never discuss it again, but it'll happen.
So multiple people, more than one.
Like 6.
Okay. I didn't know we had 6 listeners. So.
Yeah, 6 regular listeners. So, anyway.
All right. Did you know Nick got a pedicure?
I think he's just pushing for a sponsorship from
Yeah.
like a, you know.
Oh, yeah. So they can
Whoever
tell
does
me,
your
you're so
pedicures,
pretty.
Yeah. He's wearing that steel hat, but he's not looking for a chainsaw
Yeah, yeah.
sponsorship. He's looking for a pedicure sponsorship. So.
My wife went to get a pedicure, and she went to a place, and the lady was like a huge Patriots fan.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay.
And,
so she's stupid.
Easy. Yeah. I haven't finished the story. But so the Patriots game was on, right?
Okay.
And she said, like, every time they ran a play, like the girl was massaging her leg, she's like, "Ooh, Tom Brady, go, go!" And she said, so I checked, like, when the Patriots were playing, she said, I always go for my massages then, because it's,
Yeah, they do a really good job.
oh, yeah, it's like the intensity level.
That's awesome. They turn up the intensity when they watch the game.
Yeah, so,
Nice.
do your research before
Yeah.
you go.
Yeah, for
right?
sure. We're going to try and get RT to go.
Yeah?
Yeah.
He's fighting it, but it's worth a shot.
So what are we talking about today?
I have no idea.
Well, that was a quick topic change. Should we go back? Let's see how many times he can hit the topic back.
Yeah,
there. So
there we go.
Yeah.
Are you talking about generosity or something?
I don't know. Blake texted me earlier today and told us.
Yeah.
Well, the topic that was sent to me was live generously. Live generously, giving like you mean it.
Sounds great.
Yeah, and so I was talking to Hoss Ridgway yesterday, because he's going to be hopefully coming on. He's scheduled, right?
Yeah,
Yeah,
he's
I
been
think
on
so.
before. Yeah, come back on.
Yeah, talking about intensity and intentionality, and it seems like a lot of the topics recently are going towards intentionality.
Right.
And I'm really proud of that. Plus a mission statement coming up at the barn gathering,
Yep.
right? And it really made me think about, living with intention. And I was reflecting on last year, my wife, for her 29th birthday, she went on a cruise.
Yeah. Nice.
Right.
You married a younger one too, huh? I get it.
Well, she went for her 29th birthday.
Yeah.
A few years later, but it's always her 29th birthday.
Yeah,
okay?
yeah.
So yeah, she went on this cruise because she always wanted to swim with the dolphins, right?
Okay.
And so she went on this cruise, and I don't know where they went, someplace down in the Caribbean or something, right?
Yeah.
She went with
You
a
didn't
friend
go?
of hers. No, I didn't go. She went with a friend of hers.
Okay.
She wanted to enjoy herself,
Yeah, I get it.
right? I'm a lot to manage, Nick. But while she was down there, they had this place, like they got off the boat and went ashore, and they had this place where you could swim with the dolphins.
Okay.
Right. And so she said she went down there and like got in the water, right? And they were like, grabbed the fin, and it's like this dolphin's like, took off. She's blasting through the water and just flying through.
It's ironic is you were the rodeo guy and your wife rides dolphins.
Right?
Yeah.
I mean,
It's like you guys were meant for each other.
there's too much content there for me to explore. So yeah, she come home, she's telling me about it,
Yeah.
right? And I realized that at long last, I was finally living with a porpoise-driven wife.
All that for that joke. Man. All right, so it took a while to get there.
I was really curious in that because I'm going I'm going on a cruise in a couple weeks, and we're going swimming with the dolphins.
Are you?
Or my
Yeah.
daughters are. Yeah, and
Okay.
they're pumped. So I thought, I hope this is like a scary story. I can tell them and scare them about it. It's like, no.
Yeah. Get
They
yourself
can be
a porpoise-driven
porpoise-driven, too.
wife.
Yeah. Now I have a joke. Yeah.
A dad joke.
So that's kind of it. But
Okay.
yeah, so Nick was saying the same as my wife does, that I do better when I don't take a lot of notes.
Yeah, when you don't plan, when you wing it.
Right. Yeah. So,
Is this winging it? What we're doing now?
yeah.
Okay.
It
All
feels
right.
like it, doesn't it?
It does.
But I mean, in talking about that, so I got up this morning. I said, I'm going to take a few notes on generosity and living.
Generously?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I did not stop until I was almost late for coming to the
Really?
podcast. Yeah, it's just the ideas just keep flowing and flowing and flowing. I actually think there's probably a book here, but I think, unfortunately, sometimes the approach that we've taken in talking about giving is kind of like a school system who realized we have a lot of kids who are dyslexic, so I think what we should do is start printing the books backwards. And
Okay.
it's kind of like, well, you didn't understand the problem, so you were way off on the solution, and now everyone's dysfunctional.
Yeah.
And I think that in our approach to giving, we have to realize what the meaning of it is, right?
Yep.
Like how important giving really is.
Yep. And I also think we also need to look at how we're able to give,
Absolutely.
because it's not always financially for everyone. It seems like I have a few friends in life that are extremely giving of their time.
Yeah,
Sometimes that's great. Sometimes it's a burden.
right.
But it's not always a financial thing in giving. It's how can we? It's more serving. I think. How can we serve other people? Is how I think about giving.
Well, and that's the real question, is are we even working off of the right definition
Yeah.
to begin with? And so one of the things that I would say is that giving is not just about money,
Right.
but giving definitely includes money.
Yep.
It's kind of like the baseline. Now, money is a good place to look because money works in numbers, and numbers are quantifiable,
Right.
right? So we can look at numbers and we can analyze numbers and we can see how we're doing. But I thought, that maybe we would start out by expanding, and then I want to like expand the focus, and then we'll kind of take it back in a little bit. And I know you said not to prepare, but this is so good I have to read it. Like I can't not read this.
Okay, good.
Okay.
That's
Because
a
this
really big font you have.
all the better to see you with. Yeah, I know that's. Hey, look,
Part of it.
I'm turning 50.
Are you
this
really?
year.
Man.
50.
Your wife's 29. That's great.
Yeah, right.
Nice job.
And man, it's just real life. So I would say give more, live more, right? But I want to read to you this introduction from a sermon titled "Weight of Glory." It's by C.S. Lewis. Same guy with the Chronicles of Narnia and all that kind of fun stuff, right? But I want you to listen to this sermon introduction that he did. He said, "If you asked 20 good men today what they thought was the highest of the virtues, 19 of them would reply, unselfishness. But if you asked almost any of the great Christians of old, he would have replied, love. You see what has happened? A negative term has been substituted for a positive. And this is of more than philological importance. The negative ideal of unselfishness carries with it the suggestion, not primarily of securing good things for others, but going without them ourselves, as if our abstinence and not their happiness was the important point. I do not think this is a Christian virtue of love. The New Testament has lots to say about self-denial, but not about self-denial as an end in itself. We are told to deny ourselves and take up our crosses in order that we may follow Christ. And nearly every description of what we shall ultimately find if we do so contains an appeal to desire. If there lurks in the most modern minds the notion that to desire our own good and earnestly to hope for the enjoyment of it is a bad thing, I submit that this notion has crept in from Kant and the Stoics and is no part of the Christian faith. Indeed, if we consider the unblushing promises of reward and the staggering nature of the rewards promised in the gospel, it would seem that our Lord finds our desires not too strong, but too weak. We are half-hearted creatures fooling about with drink and sex and ambition when infinite joy is offered us. Like an ignorant child who wants to go on making mud pies in a slum because he cannot imagine what is meant by the offer of a holiday at the sea, we are too easily pleased.
That's good.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think that we've kind of gotten this idea that maybe it's pious or maybe it's somehow virtuous for me to be without, you to be without, RT to be without, everybody going along on a
Yeah.
on a shoestring nothing, just like one step away from death's door, and somehow that there's virtue in that, but there's the greater virtue. And I'm not going to say that's not virtuous, right? But the greater virtue is in me seeking the good of Nick,
Right.
and seeking the good of RT, and seeking the good of my family. And I think it starts on the smaller levels. And I would say this about it, right? Like, how much does a smile cost?
Right.
Right? Nothing?
Generally pretty free.
Yeah? Yeah. I mean, how much does a compliment cost?
Yeah.
How much does a kind word cost? But it's almost like, at least I notice in me, I set up this system of economy in my brain, right? And I'm like, well, if you've been nice
Yeah.
enough.
Yeah. Do they deserve that?
Yeah?
Yeah.
That-
Do they deserve a kind word from me? Do they
Yeah.
deserve a smile?
Right.
Is it worth it for me to do that for them?
Right. And then we turn that economic structure on ourselves.
Right.
Right? And so then we start in with all this self-judgment and self-loathing and everything else. But my thing is, like, with living generously, how much does it cost me to give a smile?
Right.
But that's giving, isn't it?
Yep.
I can give a smile. I can give a compliment. I can give you my time.
Right.
Right? And it's in learning to practice these little things and establishing the fact of, you know what? RT does not have to earn my appreciation. Yeah, I can appreciate him just for being RT.
Which is hard, but we do.
Well, you appreciate diversity too,
Right.
Yeah.
right? So it's all about the contrast. Some people are dark threads, some people are light threads, right? But in learning, by first of all to give,
Yeah.
right? And it begins to establish in us a practice of looking at other people and saying, man, what can I give Nick today?
Yeah.
And maybe Nick does need money. I mean, I don't know.
I'm sure he does.
Yeah, he's building a barn, right?
Right,
So,
yeah.
sure, he needs money, But when I start looking at someone and start asking that question, what do they need? And it points the question to me. What do I have to contribute?
Yep.
And I think sometimes I'm not going to lie, I shy away from that question
Yeah.
because it raises the bar,
It sure does.
right?
Yeah. Yep. Makes you start holding yourself to a higher level. What do I have to give? What can I give?
Right.
I was thinking about it on the way over here. It's like, there's people that look up to me, a couple, but there's people that look at me and they're like,
All the people under 6 foot tall.
Yeah.
they all look up to you.
but there's people that look at you and they're like, he's rich
Yeah.
or he's well off. And they're looking at you in that position, how they see you, because they're obviously in a different position. Like I look at my friends, a few of them that are actually loaded, to me, but we're in different positions in life. But I don't know. I was thinking about it. It's just like I try to be giving all the time. How can I help you? What can I do that's within my means? How can I serve you? And I have friends that do it as well, and they start serving me, who doesn't necessarily need something, or I'm not without, I guess is what I should say. But they're just, friends are so giving just on different levels, and it's kind of where you're at in life and what you can give and how you can serve other people. But I think it helps. I don't know. It helps with where you're at, when you're walking in your life, how you can be giving to other people.
When you talk about that, and just before we came on, you were asking about Africa. Was recently in Africa.
Yeah.
And American culture is very, very unique. It's not only unique globally, it's unique in the entire panoply of human history, right? I mean, Solomon couldn't go and get a cold drink out of the refrigerator. You know, I mean, you name any person that you would perceive from history, and if they woke up in the middle of the night, they couldn't just call for a band and hear their favorite song.
Right.
You know, and I mean, we have it. Like, it's like
Yep.
all that convenience is right there at our fingertips. And unfortunately, we are also, our brains are manipulated. And I know it's like, oh, here goes a conspiracy theory. And I'm going to tell you,
We like a good conspiracy theory.
this is a real conspiracy theory.
Yeah.
And I challenge people to do this. Think about how many advertisements you have been exposed to just today.
Yep.
And I mean, we're sitting right here, and I don't want to point it out because they may have to blur it,
Yeah.
but I can see 2 advertisements sitting
Yeah,
right here.
I see like 7. So,
Yeah.
you know,
3, 4,
yeah.
5,
And
6.
drinks and phones and tablets and,
Yeah.
you know, clothes and
Yeah,
it's just
and you
crazy.
can't pick up your phone without being marketed to.
Right.
And the whole thing is driven about, you know, desire, 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 desire. How can we, and we go along all day with this constant exposure, and we have started to have to learn how to, you know, filter some of this out. And at the end of the day, it's no wonder your mind is such a mess. It's no wonder why we have trouble sorting all this out. And I think that in other cultures, you see things very, very different. I don't know. Sometimes I feel like and we have this idea like what poverty is and what poverty is not.
Right.
And there's a big challenge in my mind about what poverty is and poverty is not.
Yep. I'm sure going across the ocean changes things.
Well, I started out, my first job in ministry was I was working at a homeless shelter.
Yep.
As my first paying right
Yeah.
ministry gig.
Yeah.
And so here's the job, right? I was working for Shepherd Community, and at certain times in the winter, it's killer weather. I don't know if I've shared this on here before or not.
I don't know if you have.
Okay, so it's killer weather outside. I mean, like, seriously, if you stay outside, you're going to die.
Yeah.
A lot of people don't know this, but homeless shelters have standards. A lot of times there's a check at the door, and certain programs are so in demand that you may have to qualify for them.
Yeah.
But during those times, when everybody outside dies, right,
Yep.
they open up an emergency winter contingency shelter. Now, what that means is everybody who doesn't want to die gets to come in the door. If you can imagine,
I bet you get some wild people.
Yep.
At some wild times.
I mean, and believe it or not, there may be people who are literally trying to kill each other.
Yeah.
And they're both in this same room just trying to stay alive. And so it was my job to stay up all night and make sure nobody died.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that was
Which
the
is
job.
odd that they chose you for that.
Right? I'm like, listen, you guys think bear wrestling and bull riding was a gig? That ain't
Yeah.
nothing, you know? But it was interesting because during the course of those evenings, I sat up and I listened to a lot of guys' biological functions. But I thought, I got to find better entertainment than this. But, you know, a lot of guys, they actually didn't sleep at night. A lot of them, you know, and so, you know, they would get up. And I remember there was this, man, I can't believe I'm telling this story like on broadcast, but I'm going to tell it. Are we okay to tell the story?
Yeah,
Tell the story.
Okay, right. So
Blake can
here's the
just-
thing.
Blake can beep us out.
So, now I just had to think if I'm allowed to tell this story. Yeah, so it's okay. It's okay. So I'm sitting up at night, and this one guy, he couldn't sleep at night. And so he come over and sit next to me, and we start talking.
Yeah.
Right? Now, here I am, a white, young Christian minister. And he was a older, African-American drug dealer pimp. And that's what I didn't know I could say.
Yeah.
But that's what he was.
Right.
And we would sit up for hours at night and talk. And it was just such a strange relationship that took place between he and I. And
Yeah.
we actually grew a really odd sort of friendship. But to have that opportunity and sit there and talk to him and listen
Yeah.
to...
Two guys coming from such different backgrounds.
Yeah.
And different walks. Yeah.
And we found out that we had a lot in common.
Yeah. Yeah. You find some common ground.
Yeah. But his poverty is a lot different than what we're going to see globally.
Right.
Right. And sometimes there can be wrong action whether it's intentional or unintentional. And that's a sad thing, is that a lot of times it's not that people were intending to end up in poverty.
Yep.
But what is it? There's a lack of vision, a lack of knowledge, a lack of understanding.
Yeah, we had Matt Roller on here as a guest before, and I think he did a lot of work with Wheeler. And that's what I think that was one of the biggest points that he drove home, is that most of these people, they didn't make, one wrong decision and end up homeless. They made a series of wrong decisions.
Yeah.
And he said they didn't necessarily even know that they were doing it, but a series of things happened, and that's why they ended up in the position they were in.
And sometimes it's not, like when we say a wrong decision, we think like they made a moral, ethical wrong decision.
Right.
A bad choice. They killed somebody or murdered somebody
Yeah.
or, did drugs or,
Yeah.
and believe it or not, a lot of them, it wasn't that.
Right, yeah. A lot of them, it could have just been a financial decision
Yeah.
or a handful of financial decisions. And
They didn't understand the way finances work.
Right.
They didn't understand the way government works.
Yep.
They didn't understand the way a relationship was going to play out.
taxes work,
within-
Yeah.
It really, Nick,
Yeah.
it's as simple as all that.
Yep.
That people come to this area of being in great need. And so going back to Africa now, the African need is a lot different. Because I was in Africa, and the one guy was talking about hunger, and I said, he said, do you have a hunger crisis in America? And I said, listen,
Not like you do.
Yeah.
if you're going to starve to death in America, you have to plan to.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, I think you're right. There's
And here's what I mean by that. I said, there's food banks everywhere.
right.
Yeah.
Right? And I said, if you like were humble enough and you went into a restaurant and you said, listen, I haven't eaten in 3 days.
Right.
I said, either the restaurant would give you food or somebody sitting at a nearby table would probably hear you.
Yep, they'd buy you
And-
food.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I said, and here's the thing. If you went past all that and you're walking down the street so hungry and you fall over on the sidewalk, someone will pick you up
Yeah.
and take you to a hospital. I said, so really about the only way to starve to death in America
Just to try to.
is to do it on purpose, right? Africa is a lot different because here we have a lack of distribution, and whatever that is, whether it's a person understanding of how to receive distribution or whether it's that we didn't do a good job of getting it to them.
Yeah.
There's completely different. There's a lack of supply. And a lack of supply is a much different problem than a lack of distribution.
Yep.
In a lack of supply, you may have done nothing wrong.
Right.
And a lack of supply can be difficult to fix because you may have to address that in the interim by literally handing it to them.
Yep.
But now we're in that conundrum. Give a man a fish, you feed him for a day.
Yep. Exactly.
So the next step is what? Teach him how to fish.
Right.
Is there a way in which the communities can exchange?
Right.
Is there a way in which they can develop a different form of agriculture or a different approach to their community problems that
Yep.
could help them?
Yeah. Make themselves marketable and make them have something to where they can establish trade or something within the communities to where they can work out deals between each other.
Yeah.
You know.
And that's a huge benefit of us here in America. And I hear people say this, right? And Nick, I think you're going to, RT will appreciate this too, right? Like, there's reciprocity
Right.
in our society.
Yep.
And people may say things like, a lot of times, as business owners or as employees or whatever, it seems like we use this phrase of, well, I don't want to take advantage of anybody.
Right.
And I really wish we could take that phrase and throw it out in the backyard. I mean, seriously.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, Nick, when you were running drywall contracts, right?
Right.
I wanted to take advantage of you.
Right. Yeah.
And in that same moment, I wanted you to take advantage of me.
Right. I get it.
Right?
Yep.
Because we had advantages that we could exchange with
Exactly.
each other. And now here's the thing. Your value was you valued the amount of money that you charged to perform the job.
Right.
And I valued the performance
Yeah.
of the job.
Yeah. You value the service. Same thing with you.
Right?
I value what you charge and what you do.
Hey, yeah, well, and that's it. Like as a business owner,
Yep.
if I'm out there or an employee or whatever you're doing, this is what I mean about thinking with generosity, right? And living in giving.
Yep.
And we do all throughout a lot of our Christian life, right? Like we think, well, I'm going to go to worship 1 hour a week. It's like, oh man, could we please tear that script up and throw it away?
Yeah.
I'm going to worship 24/7.
Yep.
My life is an offering, right?
Yep.
I'm going to go serve God, for 2 hours a week. Man, throw that away, please. I'm going to give my 10%, bro. You ain't got 10%. I mean, am I right?
Yeah.
RT's being real quiet as I'm talking about giving, and he's like,
It's nice to have someone else do it.
right? Just pump that handle,
Yep.
right?
Yeah, he always gets real quiet when we talk about talk about this.
But here's the thing, as a pastor, and I know RT
Yeah.
thinks about this way, the thought is, what do I have to contribute?
Yep.
And we can look at somebody, and I'm probably going to make RT embarrass them. We'll see if his face turns red, right?
I do it all the time. It's easy.
Sure. Yeah.
Right? But I think about a guy like RT, and I know a lot of pastors, okay? And these guys are intentional. They're well educated, and I think, my goodness, you've had some leadership training somewhere, haven't you?
A little bit.
A little bit? So he's had some leadership training.
Yep.
I mean, look at his qualifications. I mean, his moral, ethical stance, his intentionality.
You haven't been on vacation with him.
But I mean, in the practice of his life, right?
Yeah.
So a guy that can be a pastor with those leadership skills and all of that,
Yep.
and then we look at that and we're like, we don't want him getting a big head.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We'll keep him in there, just at somewhere around, slightly above minimum wage. And thank you, church. Listen, thank you that we pay our pastors. Not my point. Not my point at all.
Yep.
But what if RT took all of that skill set and he said, I'm going to go into the workforce and put myself there.
Yep.
This was an exchange, and I'm telling you, I don't know of any pastors who were you a pastor by accident?
Yeah.
It kind
Yeah,
It wasn't a plan. Yeah.
Was it?
Nope.
But I mean, nobody forced you to, right?
Nope.
It was a choice at
Right,
some
yeah,
point.
yeah.
You sat down, and there was pathway A and pathway B. So can I ask you why?
Yeah, I feel like it's a call, right? And so what I've told guys is that, and it discourages sometimes, but when they feel called to the ministry, like full-time pastors, like if you can do anything else, do it. And I mean that wholeheartedly.
Yep.
If you can go out and work this job, you should go out and work that job. But if there's something inside of you that won't let you do that, then you're called. So yeah.
Yeah, and he's an example of living and giving.
Yep.
And so I pick a pastor, right? And I love the contrast of you two guys because now I can pick Nick.
Yep.
Yep.
Right? Now, Nick, you do something really frivolous, like
Yeah.
you build homes
Yeah,
for a
we just
living
build
or
homes,
something.
that's it.
Yeah,
It's-
that's it.
Yep.
And I mean,
cheap work.
Yeah.
I mean, who needs that?
Yeah, exactly.
Right? I mean,
Yep.
who needs a home? I mean,
Yeah.
but I mean, so there's that value,
Right.
and I think in your approach, and I know this because I've watched Tough Men of Faith, and I
Yeah.
remember you talking about your sheet, right, and the
Yep.
things that you have listed on your sheet, like personal goals and focuses.
Yep.
Well, here's the thing: you deliver value into the community. It's all about giving,
Right.
Right?
Yep.
And then someone gives to you.
Exactly.
And so my question would be like, when we think about giving, what is giving at what point? Because there's a lot of people who have this philosophy like it's a win and lose. In order for me to make money, I got to take it from RT, right?
Yep.
But I think that, and it's like there's the financial pie,
Yeah.
right?
Absolutely.
And so you got the little slices, and
Yep.
when all the slices are gone, the pie's gone.
Right.
But the thing is, the world is not a pie. The world is a garden, right?
Yeah.
So I'll pick up this analogy and say, when I take an apple off of the tree and I eat the apple off the seed and I throw it down, what happens?
It grows again.
Oh, look at that. But
Look
does
at
it grow
that.
at the same rate?
No.
No. What happens? It multiplies.
Yep.
Right? And when we start seeing it as, what we're doing is giving seed to the soil,
Yep.
right? So you go out and you build a home, right?
Yep.
Now I give you money.
To build a home.
You give me a home,
Correct.
right?
Yep.
Who lost?
No one.
Nobody lost.
We both gained.
Right? Now here's
I don't
what's
know in
going to
today's
happen.
market.
I mean, you got
In
your
today's
money.
market, you probably lost.
Well, I'm saying you got
Inflation's terrible.
right, but you got your money.
Yep.
We got more skill, and you can say, well, I lost the money, but I still have the value of the home,
Exactly.
right?
Yep.
And now the community has a home.
Yep.
We have a structured society.
Exactly.
And I think that when we can turn our focus out and start to think, maybe God has a plan for all this.
Yep.
So I want to tell you about one thing that happened in Africa, right?
Yeah.
So we went to this village. This is a fun story.
Yes.
I was going to have the picture. Can you do pictures? I should have done this. Okay, so you're not going to get the picture, but it's a funny picture, right? So we went to this one village, and there's a few thousand
Send
people.
it to him. He can upload it with the post.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Okay.
You don't have to do it now.
Yeah,
he can
I'll
do it later.
So here's the thing. We went to this one village, and they're in bad shape. So it's a 3-mile walk.
You were there. They're in bad shape.
It's like, God's like, we're going to send you Daniel.
Yeah,
That's
yeah,
how bad it
This
is.
is what you guys get, okay?
So 3-mile walk to the nearest water source.
Wow.
And we're talking river water. 3-mile walk back. That's where they're at. Maybe 1,500 to 2,000 people in this village, and they're in rough shape,
Yeah.
right? And so we went into the village to help them out. And we did some things, and eventually, thank God, we got their water well repaired.
Awesome.
Yeah, we just did that a couple of weeks ago.
Yeah.
So no more 3-mile walk there and back. And they said 3 miles, but it may have been kilometers. So, they're probably lying. But
Was that an Africa joke? Are they lying?
they're lying.
They're lying.
It wasn't meant to be, but it kind of is now. So, so here's the thing, right? We get done, we give them their resources and everything, right? And approach a real serious need. And so at the end, before we were getting ready to leave, they said, we have something we want to give you, right? And so we
Great.
took up an offering.
Yeah.
It was 5 yams and a rooster. And I have a picture of me
Did you eat this rooster?
with these 5 yams and a rooster. And that's why my carry-on clucks. I'm like, what am I going to do? This stupid chicken, right? But here's the thing. That was an establishment of reciprocity,
Yep.
right? And so somebody could look at that and say, did we give? I mean, we did
Yeah.
take something,
Or did
right?
you sell it?
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
We took something,
Right?
right?
Yep.
So was that a gift or was it not a gift?
I think it was a gift.
You think so?
You gave them a gift. They gave you a gift. There was nothing set up in the beginning that you're going to give me this for this.
Yeah.
And
Now-
they felt better at the end of the day. Probably giving you 5 yams and a rooster that they probably really needed. Yeah.
Follow that thought, Nick.
Yeah.
Follow that thought.
Yeah. You gave them something that they really needed.
Because here's the thing, from my perspective, I can look at it and say, we gave this much into this community, which was so much more
Right.
than what they gave us.
Yep.
But what they gave us may have cost them more
Than what you gave them.
than what we gave them.
Absolutely.
So I think we have to be conscientious about this. Jesus told the story, right, of the widow.
The widow's mite. Yep.
Yeah. And here's the thing that I want people to understand is that Jesus did not take the money out of the offering and give it back to her
Right.
and say, you're too poor to give. Instead, he praised her. And he dignified the giver by receiving the gift.
Yep.
And I think that we miss that. Like really, and I'm just going to say this. Now, churches have to make budgets. Sure.
Right.
And we can all understand the nuts and bolts that if people don't give, we don't have the money, right? But here's the thing. You're not giving to the church.
Yep.
You're giving to the Lord.
It's funny you say this. I've seen RT do this.
Yeah?
There's a guy that I think he ties $12 every week.
Yeah?
And he came to RT a year ago. And he's like, I think I'm just going to start giving you $20. And RT's like, please don't. He's like, you need the money. You're a fixed income. You're an older guy. You need the money. He's like, please don't give us the $20. Please give us the 12. We appreciate your gift, but also do it reasonably. Yeah, well, I appreciate you trying to do more, but be reasonable
Yeah.
about it too.
Well, sure, there's reasonable giving, and I think that we can look and we can all find ways, like just in this short conversation, just in these short few thoughts, to think about our giving. And it is such a challenge to me because I can think about how selfish I am with my money, and I can think about how selfish I am with my thoughts because a lot of times I want my own mind and I don't want to give it over.
Yep.
Yeah?
Yeah.
And I need to give it over to the Lord, and I need to give it over to Nick, and I need to give it over to RT, and I need to give it over to the people I'm going to be serving, and I need to you know.
Yeah.
And so this is not just one of those things, but here's the thing that I do want to say this, is that literally give more, live more.
Yep.
Because I don't know what we're saving it for.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, what's the plan? You know,
Yeah.
he who dies with the most toys wins.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah.
Never saw a U-Haul following a hearse. You ever
Right.
heard that one?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
It ain't gonna happen.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
This has been really good.
Well,
I
thank
wasn't
you.
sure where you're going at the beginning,
Neither was I.
but
Yeah.
it kind of came back around. The C.S. Lewis intro was good. Bring it back around to give more, live more.
Well, and that's the thing. Like, so that point was to expand our focus, right? Like,
Yeah.
we can all think, like, the greater my reach. Like, the thing is, we're selling out too cheap.
Yeah.
If you're only giving 10%, you're selling out too cheap.
Yep.
Please give 100%.
Right.
Yeah. And can I read one phrase to you?
Do it. Yeah. Let's hear the final thoughts, like what you want to
And-
leave guys with.
This is as questionable as me talking about hanging out with a drug dealing pimp.
Yep.
Okay. But just in order to correct some things, because there are warnings in the Bible about money,
Yep.
right? It would be like somebody says, hey, look, if you use a chainsaw, you could cut your leg off,
Right.
Yeah.
right? And so you go the rest of your life as a lumberjack, never
Yeah.
using a chainsaw,
Right.
right? It's like, no, there's a warning there,
Yeah.
but it doesn't mean the chainsaw is bad. It means
Yep.
the chainsaw has a dangerous side to it.
Yep.
So for the love of money is the root of all kinds of evil. It is through this craving that some have wandered away from the faith and pierced themselves with many pangs. That's from 1 Timothy 6:10. And I said this is a warning against corrupt or polluted love. It's corrupted, it's polluted.
Right.
It's not a call to poverty as a virtue. And so I want to say this statement about cash flow. You guys know what everybody knows what cash flow is, right?
Yeah.
Like cash, and it has to flow.
Right.
It's that simple, right? So cash flow is a river of life. Good management can create the power of a spillway. It can balance ecosystems. It can transform deserts into gardens. However, without flow, you experience stagnation leading to death. So take heed how you dam your cash, lest you damn yourself.
I like it.
All right. That
So
is
you'll
great.
remember that. You'll remember that. Be careful what I do with my cash. I don't want to mess myself up.
You do this from the pulpit, huh?
Huh?
You do this from the
Oh,
pulpit.
goodness, no. I wouldn't. I would only do this at RT's church. I
Yeah,
wouldn't do this at my...
guest speaker. We appreciate you coming on,
Yeah,
as always.
It'd be good to get you on here with Haas.
Yep.
Yeah, we'd love that.
Yep.
Yeah.
All right. Appreciate you
I know
guys
we're working on
listening.
that. Yeah, make sure you check this out on YouTube and Instagram and Facebook and
X.
it's everywhere. X,
Yep.
yeah.
Share it.
Share it.
See you
Don't
at the
forget the
barn gathering.
barn gathering,
Get
April
signed up.
25th. Get signed up. You can sign up. You can't sign up late.
No, you need to do it now. All right. See you guys.
Thanks.